Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. My name is Amir Herbert bin Abdullah. Currently, I'm a senior lecturer for Diploma in Environmental Health Program in UITM, Cawangan Pulau Pinang, Campus Bertam. Welcome to another episode in Food Hygiene and Safety. In today's lesson, I'm going to share with you about food premise grading system introduced by Ministry of Housing and Local Government. Without further ado, let me take you on a journey to explore how an assistant environmental health officer from a local authority carries out the grading of an eating establishment. At the end of this lesson, students can know the current situation of foodborne illness. Students will recognize categories of food premises involved in food premise grading. Students able to understand related laws, regulations in food premise grading activity. Students are able to inspect and grade food premises. First, I'd like to give you an overview of today's lesson. Next, I'll focus on the objectives of premise grading. Then, we'll be considering scope of inspection and method for grading. Then I'll go on to highlight the inspection components, and finally I will conclude on how premise is given marks and graded. For information, WHO considers foodborne illnesses as one of the global threats. Vital statistics show 1 in 10 people become a victim of such illness. 40% of the affected population are children under the age of 5. Here are some facts shared by our Director General of Health, Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah. There are specific laws and regulations in Malaysia to curb the occurrence of foodborne illnesses. These are some of the news articles on food poisoning cases in Malaysia. There are many more actually, but I am only sharing those which recently made the headlines. The Ministry of Local Government and Housing was moved to initiate a grading system for food establishment in Malaysia because of the global trend. Observe the domino effect, population increase. The last domino is what the government is primarily concerned with. Food premise grading system is one way the government can reduce the burden of foodborne illnesses. The objectives of food grading system basically include providing recognition to food premises, providing safe eateries, reducing the incidence of foodborne illness, and create awareness among food handlers. The premises that are graded under this program are restaurants, fast food restaurants, cafeteria, kiosks, and food court. The grading activities are carried out by environmental health officer or assistant environmental health officer from local authorities. Gradings are required for the following occurrences. Number 1, when the local authority wants to be proactive. Number 2, we want to reduce foodborne diseases. Number 3, because a premise was ordered to close by the Ministry of Health or due to public complaint. The next inspection for an A grade premise is after 2 years. For a B grade premise is after 1 year. For a grade C premise is after 6 months. If a premise doesn't fall into either A, B or C, it will be re-inspected after 14 days. And if there is still no improvement, it will be recommended for closure by Ministry of Health. In this table, we can look at the respective marks for A, B, C and no grading. Here are examples of certificates issued by the certifying body, which is the local authority. Any given certification can be withdrawn by the certification body under the following circumstances. There are cases of foodborne illnesses. They fail to maintain the prescribed level of evaluation. New operators or food handlers do not have anti-typhoid vaccination. New operators or food handlers did not attend basic food handler training course. Premise in a condition that can affect food safety and harm the public. And lastly, when the premise fails to abide by the licensing conditions imposed by the local authority. Now let us see what are the fundamental aspects that an assistant environmental health officer looks for when he carries out his inspection for the purpose of grading a food premise. There are 7 sections for the inspection components. At the far right are their respective marks. The grand total for grading a premise is 100. As we move from section to section, we'll begin with section A. The total mark for section A, food preparation area, is 25. Notice there are some critical points observed. The one which has temperature range. Section B covers aspects in food serving area. Here too there are critical control points. Total mark for this section is 18. Section C, which carries 13 marks, focuses on the human factor. Human attitude and behavior in handling and preparing food may end up in serving of unhealthy or spoiled food. Section D, which contributes 5 marks, is about usage of clean water in food preparation, as well as to maintain a food premise clean at all times. 12 marks are allocated for Section E. Sanitary facilities and fittings should be well maintained, as these can become sources of cholera and salmonella infection. Section F is about the physical structure of the premise itself. 11 points for this section. The last section that we will be looking for includes generalized or common elements in food premise inspection. The elements include waste management, pest management, and safety in the premise. Hope all of you are clear now on what do we look for when grading a food premise. Let's move on to the calculation part. I will explain to you how the demerit system works. Let's take section D for example. Total marks allocated is 5. Under the component column, you may find how the 5 marks are distributed. If the premise doesn't comply any one or more of the listed components, that the number of marks will be penalized and entered in the demerit column. If we recall from slide 14, grand total marks are 100. At the end of our inspection, we will know the total marks in the demerit column for section A to section G. Substitute then the number into the formula and there you go. You have the grading marks for the premise in percentage. Refer to slide 11 for what grade can be awarded to this premise. Here is a standard form prepared by the Ministry of Local Government and Housing for food premise grading. As it is standardized, every local authority only need to embed their logo onto the form. For further information on food premise grading, you may visit or contact the nearest local authority where you are residing. These are my references which may assist you in obtaining further knowledge. That's all from me. If you have any questions, please drop an email to me, the address given in the slide. Thank you for your attention. Have a blessed day. Assalamu alaikum.